What's up, guys? It's Christian here, and today I want to talk about how a high value individual talks to themselves. Now, self talk is a topic that, people can easily get wrong. I've it wrong many times, and so I wanted to make this video where, from my own experiences with like trying to figure out how best to talk to myself, I've found the way that, is good to talk to myself. And I've seen other, things like this on, social media and the self-improvement platforms that I'm following that of how this is a great way to talk to yourself if you want to become somebody successful. So let's get right into it and I will go ahead and start. So what I wrote down here, it says this. It says, a high value individual knows when to give themselves credit and knows when to give themselves constructive criticism. And the point I want to make in this video is that you need both. And I wrote that a lack of credit leads to self-doubt, lack of motivation, and lack of progress, and a lack of constructive criticism leads to a entitlement, a lack of motivation, and a lack of progress. So let me dive a little deeper and explain why I say what I say about these things. So a lack of credit leads to self-doubt. I mean, obviously. I mean, like if you're like only focusing on the negative and you don't give yourself credit for the positive things you do, like if you don't give yourself positive feedback like at all, you're gonna you're gonna not want to do what you want to do anymore. I mean, think about it. If you're playing basketball and you know you never you don't think you're good at basketball because you have no positive feedback, and then all you see is negativity, and you don't want to play through that. And so, yeah, that's why a lack of credit leads to self-doubt, and it leads to a lack of motivation because, as I said, like for the same reasons that, like, in a sense, the self-doubt leads to a lack of motivation because you've got so much doubt, then it's like, how could you ever be like motivated to do this thing? And then a lack of progress because, well, if you have self-doubt and you're unmotivated, then you can't make progress because you've basically given up at that point. So that is what a lack of positive feedback does to you. And even if all you see are, negative things, like it's important to like, make an effort to find the positive things that, even if you do something, yeah, even if you do something bad and you do it like a little, like shooting a basketball, like if you make, I don't know, 5 out of 20 shots, but last time you made 1 out of 20, that's progress. Like, even though it's bad, it's still progress. And the thing is, like, nothing happens like overnight. So, of course, that's a, little side rant, but just to, get my point across that, yeah, that, a lack of credit leads to self-doubt, lack of motivation, lack of progress, and ultimately you, like, giving up. Now let's talk about a lack of constructive criticism. Now, obviously, a lack of constructive criticism leads to entitlement. I mean, if all you see are, the positive things about yourself, then, and you just like skip over the negative, you're not even like, you don't think there's an ounce of like, you think you're like perfect, then you get prideful, you get entitled, and that leads you on a course of destruction. And why is because you get a lack of motivation, because if you're so perfect, then why do you need to work to get better? You see how that works? And then, of course, a lack of progress for that same reason. Like, you think you're so amazing that you don't work on your game and you don't get better as a result of not working on your game. And so, that is why a lack of constructive criticism leads to, you not making any progress. So as we see, both a lack of credit and a lack of constructive criticism impact us in negative ways. And that's why we need both credit, to give ourselves credit and say, hey, we did good on this. We did good on that. I'm pretty amazing at what I'm doing. And we need constructive criticism to say, hey, even though we did this, we should have done better on that. Even there's no way that we should perform that bad at something. We need to pick it up, right? And even like the last example that I gave, like any like regularly I will have to give myself that kind of speech, like, hey, I expect better from you, pick it up. And that's not like rude or toxic or anything. It's out of love because you want to be the best version of yourself. So it's okay to tell yourself, like, hey, this isn't good enough. We can do better. Why? Because we're amazing. And so now we have a question. When should you give yourself credit versus constructive criticism? So if I flip page, I will get there. Okay. So I wrote, give yourself credit whenever you do something good. That's simple, right? And so then I wrote, if you do something you're supposed to do, give yourself credit, but know that you have to keep doing it. There's a funny, Chris Rock stand-up, Chris Rock mentioned this in a stand-up comedy routine. He's like, man, some people, want credit for stuff that they're supposed to do. And, it's funny because like he was like talking about how people will brag about certain things, and it's like, well, dude, you're supposed to do that. Like, it's not, you're making it a bigger deal than it than it actually is. And so that's why I wrote, if you know you're doing so, if you do something you're supposed to do, give yourself credit, but know that you have to keep doing it, right? As I said, a lack of like, if you, like, let's say like you're a 10-point per game, and I'm using basketball because I know basketball. If you're a 10-point per game scorer and you score 10 points in a game and you're like, man, that sucked. Then you actually go backwards because like you totally dismiss like you doing, what you're supposed to do. You're giving your responsibility to your team. That's still valuable. That still holds value. So don't like dismiss, what you do just because it's like expected from you. It's still valuable that you did said thing. And so now let's get back on track. So I wrote, give yourself credit whenever you do something good. If you do something good, if you do something you're supposed to do, give yourself credit, but know that you have to keep doing it. And then I wrote this. I said, aim to get to a certain level where it doesn't faze you and you need to give yourself credit for it. So if you are that 10-point per game scorer and you want to get to 20 points per game, then, you continue to work and continue to believe that you are this reality as someone that they score 20 points per game. It doesn't even faze them because it's expected to them. And like I said earlier, they need to give themselves credit for that because it's like they're supposed to do that. They expect that of themselves. So they forget, hey, I scored 20 points per game. It's pretty good, So then I say, then continue to put in the work that is necessary to be at and surpass the level at which you're at. Because truthfully, in anything, if you get complacent, you will get worse. And if you reach a certain level, like if I become a 20-point per game scorer, I have to continue to work and do the work that, and even more, than what got me to being a 20-point per game scorer. Because if I become a 20-point per game scorer and stop working on my game, then I get worse. Then I'm not a 20-point per game scorer anymore. And we don't want that. So yeah, there's that. So give yourself credit whenever you do something good. If you do something you're supposed to do, give yourself credit, but know that you have to keep doing it. Aim to get to a certain level where it doesn't faze you and you need to give yourself credit for it. Then continue to put in the work that is necessary to be at and surpass the level at which you are at. And then we'll talk about, that was like my little thing about credit. Now let's talk about constructive criticism. So I said, constructive criticism needs to come after you've performed short of the level you know you could be at. As I said, I have those like little speeches with myself. Hey, pick it up. We expect better of ourselves. And and that could be in your performance, and that could be in, the work that you're putting in. Like, hey, you've like bypassed your alarm. You've like, you wanted, your original plan was to get up at 5 and now you like made it 7. Like, what happened there? You were supposed to work out 4 days a week and now you've done 3. What happened there? And so, and that's like, that leads me to the last thing I wrote right here, which is says, check yourself before it gets out of hand. Like, I think an easy example of this was this summer, because I got out of school. I downloaded a NBA 2K mobile, and so I was like, playing that. But I'm like, hey, like eventually, I was like, playing it quite a bit, and I was like, okay, this is not doing anything for me. I deleted the app, right? Because I checked myself before it got out of hand. And that's something that you're gonna have to do a lot in life, is check yourself before it gets out of hand. And I did. I deleted the app. I deleted the distraction. And so, yeah, that's my video. In a nutshell, you have to give yourself credit and you have to give yourself constructive criticism. And as you go in life, you'll learn when to give yourself credit and when to give yourself constructive criticism. So if there is anything that you may be confused about, ask me a question or rewatch the video. Yeah, ask me a question in the comments, and rewatching the video will help too. But yeah, that's my message. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.